Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Patrick Liu, and I'm going to be your host for the Diabetes Survival Guide show. I'm the founder of the Diabetes Management Group, where I am a fitness and wellness coach for people with type 2 diabetes and prediabetes. And this show will be a way to share the phenomenal stories about people with all forms of diabetes, healthcare professionals who work with people with diabetes, health and wellness coaches who work with people in this population, and or caregivers and relatives with people with diabetes across the world. A little bit of a personal background for me as a show starter is I was diagnosed with prediabetes back in 2021 and made some modifications to my lifestyle and habits to successfully reverse it in 2022. However, that onset of me receiving prediabetes in 2021 triggered my memories of when my grandpa, who passed away when I was a sophomore in high school from kidney failure secondary to his type 2 diabetes, about the care that was misunderstood and not the greatest at that time. So I want to provide this show as a way to explore the different spectrums of diabetes and healthcare professionals sharing their tips of what they've seen helpful in working with folks with them, and then some things that weren't as helpful so that y'all can learn something. So thank you so much, and we'll get started with the disclaimers and the show.
Disclaimers. This show is not medical advice or a treatment plan and may contain sensitive and explicit content. It is intended for general education and demonstration purposes only. This content should not be used to self-diagnose or self-treat any health, medical, or physical conditions. Don't use this show to avoid going to your own healthcare professional or to replace the advice they give you. Consult with your healthcare provider before attempting anything you learned in this show. You agree to identify and hold harmless the creators of this material for any and all losses, injury, or damages resulting from any and all claims that arise from your use or misuse of this show material. The creators and guests of this show make no representations about the accuracy or suitability of this content. Use these materials at your sole risk. Views and opinions are individual to the creators and guests of this show and do not represent any other opinions or entities and are not intended to offend anybody. We hope you enjoy the show.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Diabetes Survival Guide Show. I'm your host, Patrick, and I am joined by a phenomenal guest today. So Kristina, not only does she have the smile that every time I go on Instagram, I just see it and it just melts my heart. She is a dietitian who specializes in type 2 diabetes care. And her reasoning for getting into the field and helping people with diabetes is very similar to mine. Her grandma, Oma, she had type 2 diabetes, and Kristina was copying what she did, being her little sous chef, to learn all the tricks and the tips of making delicious and amazing food. And then also understanding how does nutrition go along with managing our health and allowing us to grow and develop to become amazing individuals, feeling fueled throughout our day, and understanding where is that balance between having delicious foods and being able to manage diabetes. Because for my grandpa, for those of you who don't know yet, my grandfather, he passed away from type 2 diabetes. So just hearing Kristina's story, I just resonated with that of like, oh, similar backgrounds, similar stories. And that's why I was like, I need to have Kristina come on to the show. And I'm sure some of the people were requesting her to be on here. So I'm super stoked to have her on today. You all are in for a treat. So anyways, without further ado, it is my absolute honor to have Kristina here. Kristina, would you mind telling us a bit about yourself and how you started getting involved working with people with type 2 diabetes for the stuff that I have not already covered yet?
First of all, thank you so much. It's my honor to be here. And thank you so much for such an amazing introduction. You're so sweet. So I'm excited to be here, but absolutely. So you're totally right. I grew up living with my grandparents. And so I just spent a lot of time with my grandma. I was super close with her. I called her my soul twin. We were just like best friends. And ever since I can remember, I always wanted to be in the kitchen cooking with her. And we're German, so she was always cooking amazing stews like Hungarian goulash and schnitzel and Zwiebelschnitzel, like all sorts of amazing things, baking amazing things. Like when I think about her, how she smelled like dough and sunscreen, like such a grandma thing. But anyway, I was always in the kitchen with her cooking with my little blue and red rolling pin, and I had a little step stool and everything. And so I think just being a dietitian, she's one of the reasons that I actually became a dietitian, and that I love food so much, and that I recognize that food is just more than nutrition. But as I got older, I was in school for nutrition because in high school, I decided I wanted to become a registered dietitian. I didn't know what I wanted to do at that time. I just knew that I wanted to work with people, help them along their healing journey, and food was just always something that I loved. Who doesn't, honestly? Living with my grandma at the time, I saw her struggle with type 2 diabetes, and I just saw how much she struggled with even the simplest foods. If she made spätzle, like the little egg noodles, she would be very conscious of eating those with the goulash, or even just a snack like banana. It was just very food focused. She was very anxious about things. And I understood that because I had my own struggles with eating. I struggled with eating disorders, and I just got to a certain place in both my personal journey with food and healing that relationship with food, as well as my nutrition degree, that I eventually started to look at how she looked at food from a different angle. And once I had that knowledge of pairing protein, fat, and fiber, making sure that you have the proper carb portions, all those important things that we have to do when it comes to blood sugar management, I thought, like, why don't we make it so much easier for people? It doesn't have to be that complicated. We don't have to cut out certain foods or cut out carbs or make people feel that food is something to be scared of, because most people are when they're diagnosed. It just creates a really contentious relationship with something that we need to survive. The example I use, and a lot of other dietitians use, is when you have to go to the bathroom, you don't say, oh, I already went like 30 minutes ago, so I shouldn't have to go now. I'm just going to wait. But we do that with food, right? So we like always try to control our food, and there's so many reasons for that, so many layers that go into it, but it should be easy. It should almost be like when you watch a little kid eat, like when they're done, they put the fork down, they're done. You can't force them anymore. And that's how it should be for us, whether you have type 2 diabetes or not. My goal is to help people get to that place. So that's basically, long story short, how I got into working with type 2 diabetes. After I finished my program in New Hampshire, I had my last rotation, my clinical rotation, in the hospital that I was born at, actually here in Los Angeles.
What?
And
Crazy.
funny how things come full circle, right? But I did my clinical rotation there. And then when I finished, they offered me a per diem job as a registered dietitian. So I never thought that I would work in a hospital, but I did. I just thought it would make me sad, and it did, but it was very great experience, great perspective, and taught me so much of what I know now. And I worked inpatient, working with the patients in their rooms, doing everything: education, tube feeding calculations, intravenous nutrition or TPN calculations. But eventually we needed an outpatient dietitian, who is basically, for anyone who doesn't know what that means, the dietitian that you go to when your doctor refers you to see the dietitian. So you're coming in on your own and you have that hour-long session with the dietitian. That was me. And most of our clients were either weight loss surgery, bariatric surgery, or type 2 diabetes or gestational diabetes. As time went on, I started really realizing how much I love working with people with type 2 diabetes. We would just get some patients now and then that, first of all, the hour is not long enough, but some people, it really just clicked for them. And just like seeing that response in someone, it's just such a beautiful thing. And I would always think about my grandma, and eventually I just realized, like, this is what I want to do. Yeah.
I have so many chills right now. I not only could feel the message that you have, I was able to hear every single word. I'm able to visualize the story that you're sharing with us. And I'm just thinking to myself, Kristina is so awesome, very personable. And then points that you talked about for having an eating disorder. I actually shared some similar experiences with disorganized eating when I did wrestling back in high school, because it was like, oh, I have to cut weight. I have to restrict the amount of food that I have to eat. And then ever since having that situation growing up, I just had a terrible relationship with, oh, I don't ever feel like that I'm completely full. I don't ever feel like that I'm completely satiated. And then whenever I am hungry, it's like a constant hunger pain. So it's, I don't know what foods to eat. Sometimes the foods are demonized as bad, or sometimes it's demonized as good. Or I'm complimented for, oh, you can eat a lot of food, so keep on eating food, eat as much as you can. And it was just a vicious cycle of stacking different perspectives and opinions, and me not truly understanding what's it like to have a healthier relationship with food, considering that it's, you get what you get, and you may not eat anymore later on, or you have to eat such a restricted amount in order to make weight for either wrestling, or for myself growing up in a low income situation, like you wouldn't really know when the next meal would be coming at times, or if the meal did come, the quality of the food and the nutritional value of the food, it's not as balanced as it could have been. So it's like getting flashbacks and visions of that. And then of course, your experience working in the hospital of remembering the awesome moments that you had with your grandma, as well as also understanding I can make a huge difference in helping these people so that they don't have to go through the same struggles as my grandma, and even my own struggles. I'm just thinking to myself, that's so awesome. That just melts my heart.
Thank you for sharing that, because honestly, I think everyone has been in a circumstance where food has just been highlighted in some way, whether it's like a comment from a well-meaning family member, or wrestling in high school, or the death of a parent where it's now a coping strategy, or there's so many things that it can be caused from. But anytime that our attention is now on food, it changes your relationship with food. And I think it can be almost an invitation eventually to healing. And so that's why it's so, it's like an honor being in the healthcare field, because we get that like privilege of being able to help people heal.
Yeah, most definitely. And just building up those blocks one by one. And I think the biggest thing that really hits home for me, that I think other people are probably experiencing the same way, food also captures the culture that people has with them. Like the memories that you've shared with your grandma for making the different meals and foods, and then of course sharing the meals like the schnitzels and those other foods that I can't quite pronounce yet. It's like those memories are associated with it. It's passed down from their parents to parents and all that generational stuff, and then being told, oh, that food's bad, you can't eat it because it has carbohydrates in there. That at that point, it's like, I grew up with this thing and I have so much awesome memories, and it makes me feel so amazing when I eat it, to now having that entire timeline just taken away. That's just brutal. But now it's, oh, proper education and actually understanding how our body works with digesting foods, and understanding that we can have it. It's just we need to pair it with other things with it, just a small minor adjustments and little changes. It can be incorporated into a diet, and the diabetes can still be managed.
Absolutely. And I would go as far to say is that it should be, because like you said, our social life, our traditional life, food connects us to other people. It connects us to memory. It's just so many things. Like when you think back one day when you're in your 80s or 90s, if we're so lucky to make it that far, you're going to think back on some of those memories, right? It's not just about the food, but that's the glue. That was the thing that brought you together. And it's just wild to say that we cannot eat those foods, because at the end of the day, everything breaks down into protein, fat, or glucose anyway. So it just comes down to having that right balance, like you said, and knowing how to pair things properly. So
music to my ears. All right. So the next question that I want to ask is, what has been your best success story with a client?
Okay, best success story. It's honestly hard to choose. I was looking back at some of my client wins and taking some notes here, because I'm like, it's so hard for me to choose. I've worked with people from so many different backgrounds. I'll give you a couple of them. I had one client go from an A1C of 10.1 to 6.4. And she wasn't sure if this was something that she was going to be able to do. She's a really busy mom with a full-time job. Wasn't sure if this is even something that she had the capacity for. But even a lot of people come to me and they're like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can make these changes or have time to cook and things like that. And that's something that I take into consideration as well, because we have to look at the individual holistically, right? capacity is a huge part of that. And I work closely with clients to make sure that whatever recommendations we are doing takes that into consideration. And she really blew herself away there, I think, and just did a great job. I have another client who went from an A1C of 8.5% in the type 2 diabetes range down to 5.5% in 3 months. So that's in the non-diabetes range. So he skipped pre-diabetes and went straight to the non-diabetes range. So that was amazing. I was so happy for him. He lives in the southern region of the US and is just a very busy guy, travels for work, has kids, has a family. Also, like the food in that region of the US is known to be very high calorie, high in saturated fat. And those are some foods that in reality, we're going to be at some of the work meetings, we're going to be at some of the family dinners, and he would do his best in the beginning to try to not eat those things. But through working together, we eventually got to a place where he was like, look, I can get my A1C down real low, but am I never going to eat these foods again? No. And I was like, what an amazing realization. That's a huge realization to reckon with, that you have the rest of your life to go and you still want to be able to make space for those foods and honor the part of yourself that desires them. It's normal, it's human to desire them. And that kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier, that that's a part of the culture in that part of the United States. Southern food is delicious and he should be able to eat that sometimes. And so at the end of the journey, I remember he said something to me that I'll never forget. And it was around the holidays. And he was like, Kristina, you made this easy, but also I have to say, I actually am excited for the holidays. Now when I go on, whether it's a work trip or family dinner, or now with the holidays, I'm excited because I know what to do. It's like easy for me now. And that just really, really stuck with me, because that's the goal. Like as healthcare professionals, that's what we want for our clients. And so that was just chef's kiss, like a beautiful example of how far you can go. So yeah, I'll leave it at that, I think.
I am blown away from helping someone who is a busy mom, taking care of her kids, and not thinking that one would be able to manage all that, to then becoming fully confident and can now set an awesome example for her kids, saying, hey, since I was able to do this, I know you can do amazing things as well. And breaking that generational curse. Because I know plenty of people are saying, oh, it runs in the family, can't do anything about it. When in reality, it's like, no, that super mom was able to do it, and her kids are going to be able to do it, and it's going to stay off throughout their lifetime because they're able to pass down the knowledge that they have and sharing those positive memories. And then for the guy who's traveling everywhere, just being able to look forward to the holiday meals and feel super excited about it instead of feeling dreadful about it, like that is so awesome.
Right. I'm so happy for them. And once in a while, they'll message me and we'll catch up a little bit, but they seem to continue to be doing well. So that's also really awesome.
Yeah, it's the consistency thing that it's not talked about as much. And now that it is being talked about more, it's very magical to just see the timeline of being in a tough spot to conquering it to now thriving. That timeline is always amazing to see.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think so many people, they come from that space where they've tried all the diets, or they've cut out the carbs, or they have that handout when they leave the doctor's office: no rice, no potatoes, no bananas. That's the classic. That's like the trifecta that I hear all the time. And it is more sustainable because we have 3 macronutrients: protein, fat, and carbs, for a reason. And so when we learn how to eat them all the right way, you're going to be able to do it for the long run. So it's really awesome.
Carbs are not the enemy. They're an ally.
They're not enemy. They're
balanced with other things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning into this podcast. And before we continue with the rest of this show, I wanted to let y'all know, please feel free to give this podcast a 5-star rating if you like it. Share it with other folks that you think it'd be beneficial for. And if you haven't already, feel free to subscribe and follow to the Diabetes Management Group for awesome tips to manage your type 2 diabetes or prediabetes. And let's get back to the show.
Okay, Kristina. So the next question that I have for you is, what is the most painful lesson that you've learned since starting your journey in owning your own business? as well as working with people with type 2 diabetes? And what did you learn from each of those moments?
Okay, this is a good one. So I will start with the one when it comes to my business. So I originally opened my business in, I believe it was 2018. And I was doing the whole classic old school dietitian thing where you rent an office space and clients by the hour in person. I didn't really have a specialty at that time. I was doing everything coming from the clinical hospital setting. I had the background. So I was doing everything, but I really was not getting much revenue from that. And I didn't feel fulfilled. I had only a couple of clients. And so I think the hardest part was that my business was still active and open, but I basically shut down my business for a while. And I could have looked at it as a failure, and at times I did, but I don't feel that it was a failure. I feel like I just learned so much from it. And that now, maybe like years ago, that was the status quo and the main way to do things. But now with social media, it being such a huge thing now and being such an asset to all of us, there's a different way to do it where you can really hone in on a specific niche where you can really help people reach their goals. I hired a business coach. I actually had two business coaches that, yeah, oh my gosh, it was such a game changer for me from a business perspective because I learned so much. I didn't know what I didn't know. I know nutrition, but I don't know anything about business. And so I learned from both of them, and they had similar ideas on some things and different things on some things. And I think at the end of the day, I'm still continuing to learn and grow as a business owner and find exactly what's going to work best for my clients and I. But I think the most difficult thing there, that brush with like failure. But I think at the end of the day, it just comes with it gives you perspective, and you have to think about how do you want to look at this experience. But if I didn't have that failure, then I wouldn't have gotten to where I am now. And I feel one thing about me is I'm pretty gritty. So if there's something that I want to do and I want to accomplish it, I'm going to keep going and keep learning and doing whatever I have to do to get there. And I'm going to keep doing that because I'm still learning. So that was a tough one, but a good one when it came to business. But for my clients, what's one of the most painful lessons? I just look back on my whole career as a dietitian, not even with what I'm doing now, but just starting when I first started in the hospital setting and doing outpatient. And I think one of the most painful or difficult things was that some people, they're just not ready to change, and that's okay. But some people, when I was working in the hospital setting, they would get a referral from their doctor and they would show up and they wouldn't really know why they were there. They just felt that they had to go because their doctor sent them, but they just weren't ready to change. And that's okay, because type 2 diabetes is a scary diagnosis. And it's something that you have to grieve and you have to reckon with and sit with for a while. And you're not going to be ready to take in all this information right away when you're actively grieving, or there's 5 stages of grief and it's like the ocean tides, they go back and forth between all of them until you reach that point of acceptance. And I think as a baby dietitian at the time, it was really hard for me to realize that no matter how hard I tried, I just couldn't help them at that point in time. It wasn't about me. It wasn't a lack of something that I couldn't do. And maybe even like unbeknownst to me, I planted a little seed that one day could get the ball rolling for them. But it was pretty hard for me in the beginning to believe that I couldn't help them because I really wanted to. So I think that was the hardest part.
No, blew me away with all of that. And I'm sure the audience is listening to this, watching this, and having that deeper feeling that, my goodness, I can relate to those things. Especially for the business aspect of looking at it as that learning opportunity of, this is just a stepping stone for me to better understand of, hey, I need help to make it to that next part, to actually figure out what I want. And even figuring out the stuff that one doesn't want, that's still a step forward in trying to figure out what people want. And then investing into business coaches, very underrated. Like, I'm working with a few business coaches myself, and that has been a game changer, because now I'm able to understand, oh, what things should I actually work on? And then what things should I say no to, so that I can actually focus on the things that's driving my business forward? Because yesterday night, I think I was having a conversation with one of my business coaches saying, hey, I feel like I'm spread thin with these different areas and then trying to do this opportunity. And then I'm busy with school, of course. And he just sat me down and saying, hey, taking a look at the content that you have, it's good, but what's your story? What's your personality? Like go in all in with that, because you have a great story and you just need to share it. And similar to you with your story and situation and background, people find you super relatable. They find you very personable, and just being able to put that step forward and realizing, oh, like I just have to be me and be comfortable with that and move forward with it. And then even being ourselves of wanting to serve and support others, especially with some people who aren't quite ready for that change, you being able to see it as an opportunity to plant the seed for them to potentially see someone in the future, that, in my opinion, is an awesome perspective to have, that you've grown so much to have that understanding and that development. Because coming from some of my clinical rotations, I could empathize with you there whenever you said those things of, oh, this patient doesn't want to do their exercises in order to get better after their total knee replacement or those other things. And then it's just a matter of understanding we provided them that value, we at least planted the seed, and it's just allowing them to process it on their own. And once they realize, okay, it's time for me to take that next step forward, that small baby step forward, that's actually like a huge mountain in perspective wise. And just being able to do it one step at a time and understanding that we can only serve those who are ready, and allowing ourselves to have that grace for every failure along the way to use that as a learning lesson. Super beautiful.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's just so much that you learn along the way. And I think now in my business, obviously, I don't take insurance, unfortunately, at this time, but with that said, I think it brings in more people that are really ready. When there is that investment that you're making in your health, you're trading that financial investment for getting your time back, getting that stress level to go down, getting answers right away, having the support right away, and getting, I will never say guaranteed, but almost definitely getting your blood sugars down. I don't think I had a single client that hasn't somehow gotten their blood sugars down. So I think it's worth it. And you're right, we can at least plant a seed. And I think no matter what kind of healthcare professional you are, you will see that somewhere along your journey.
Mm-hmm. Little steps each time. We're just planting the seeds for a future opportunity to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. So Kristina, if you were to share one piece of advice to yourself when you first started your business and with another person who's just recently diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, what would the piece of advice be?
Okay, really great question. So I think when it comes to, if I had to give myself a piece of advice when I first started my business, it would be to think outside of the box and don't just do what you're told to do. I think, especially for dietitians, everyone tells you, oh, you have to go into clinical, you have to work in a hospital setting. That's what you have to do. You can't make it otherwise. And while I have zero regrets about doing that, because it truly set me up for seeing type 2 diabetes up close along with other disease states, it wasn't the only option. And then same thing with my business. I felt like I had to just do it the traditional way, where I rented the office space. I saw a client hour by hour, and I didn't have to do that. And honestly, the best tip of advice I would give is to get that business coach, like what we were talking about, because I don't know about you, Patrick, but for me in nutrition and dietetics, we don't learn much about business. We had one business speaker, but we didn't learn anything about it. So I didn't know what I could even do, but having a business coach was really instrumental for me to see that there's different options out there and really utilize social media marketing to grow a community of people who can connect with me, but also each other. So that would be my best business tip for sure. And then when it comes to somebody recently diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, my first tip, so I have so many, it's so hard to pick, but I would definitely say, one, get yourself a dietitian, because you can do so much with nutrition and lifestyle. I think that is so crucial. And the earlier that you can do that, the better, because type 2 diabetes, unfortunately, it is progressive. And so with time, we lose more of the functioning of those insulin producing cells. And we want to be able to maintain as much of that as possible. So the earlier that you can intervene to learn the tools, the more that you can, maintain those cells. But even if you're trying it on your own, my main tip would be, don't skip meals. Make sure you're eating the classic 3 meals per day, and just choose a protein, a fat, and a high fiber carb. simple. I would just keep it simple like that.
Mm-hmm. Excellent tips, especially for understanding that it's like, you don't have to take stuff away. You can still have that carb,
No,
have a high fiber one, and then add some protein,
exactly.
add some fats to it, help blunt the blood
Mhm.
sugar response and make it fun.
Exactly. Make it fun. I love that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's a new motto that I'll have. Make it fun.
Yeah, I
Oh,
love
actually, no,
that.
it is my motto. My motto is, if it's not fun, then I'm going to make it fun. That's literally my
Yeah,
motto.
hey, I love that. And because let's be honest, type 2 diabetes isn't really that fun. So
Yeah. Uh-huh. So it's got to spruce it up. And then other people
yeah.
are being so tribalist, in my opinion, with it that I'm less like, I want to stay away from that. I want to break the mold of what's going on here. Like, we can have the stuff that we want, and we could have awesome blood sugars, and we could reverse diabetes. Who says that we can't have all of it?
I completely agree with you. And I have to say, one thing that I learned when I was working in the clinical setting, and I know you have some experience with that now too, is that I just think back to my patient interactions. And I also observed a lot of other providers in their interactions with patients. And I started to notice a trend that so I call it like the veil of white coat professionalism, that you do feel as a healthcare provider, and even think about just anyone, we all go see our doctor, right? Don't you feel like there's a little bit of a power dynamic there, or you feel like a little nervous sometimes? Hi, doctor. That's a little like awkward, a little nerve wracking. You feel like a little kid again. And I don't know, when you have that white coat on, you feel like you have to be like professional. Hello, how's it going? And I just noticed that when I was more just, I don't know if I can say, I'm going to say shooting the beep, whatever you want to call it, shooting the crap with my clients in a professional way, obviously, but having fun, being like, oh, hey, Mr. So, how you doing today? Being more fun and like personable. They were way more apt to open up to me and share more about what's been going on for them. Or sometimes people would even start crying and telling me their life story or asking me for a hug or something. And honestly, we are seeing people in their darkest hour. So if we have a chance to be able to really be there for them, I think that's what most of us want to do anyway. So when we go in there and we drop the like suck it, whatever you
The
want
expensive choker is what I call it. I can't be me. I'm very
exactly
expensive. I like to have fun.
Yeah, exactly. It's like hyper professionalism or whatever, the power dynamic. If you can just release that a little bit and just be like person to person, I feel like we have much better patient outcomes. So why not have fun with it a little bit in a professional way, obviously, but yeah.
So valuable. And then for those who are thinking about starting their businesses and are like, oh, I can't afford a business coach. I'm not sure if any of y'all know this, but I'm a huge fan of Alex Hormozi and Layla Hormozi. Like, they have business books that's out for free on their Spotify channels. The Game with Alex Hormozi. Layla Hormozi has like a bunch of YouTube training and videos that's like super insightful for people starting from nothing to making their first $1 million for their business. So if you want to start a business, that's there. Go for it. There's free information there. They have free trainings on their website. I'm not sponsored by them or anything, but they just have awesome material that I'm able to learn from. And if I was able to benefit from it and serve other people, let's just share more info so that we could get people there. And then whenever y'all are ready to take care of your health with an awesome business, feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to help you out along your care team.
Exactly. That's a great
like
tip.
future plug.
I love it.
Okay. Yeah, I just really love all the stuff that you've been sharing, especially for the wins that you've had with the patients that you've had, the clients that you've had, the learning lessons that you have, and then also just sharing how amazing that you are and showing people that, hey, we care.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you're doing great work out there too. And I'm excited for you in your program. Which coach are you working with, if you don't mind me asking?
So I'm working with a few. Greg Todd is one of them. Brandon Smith is another one. And then I'm working with the upgrade coaches. So yeah, they're like mental reprogrammers. I'm learning how to do timeline therapy. So mental health component with that. So
that's so important.
Yeah. I'm just like trying to learn how to do the trifecta. It's like nutrition coaching certification, physical therapy with the fitness side of things, physical health, and then of course like the timeline therapy for mental health stuff. So it's the whole bundle, the whole package, and then figuring out how I can keep on collaborating with folks so that we can really elevate the care of diabetes, because it's an awful disease. And being pre-diabetic myself back in 2021 and being able to reverse it in 2022 and the symptoms that I've had from it, Like
That's
the
awesome.
symptoms can happen to anyone. So it's
Yeah.
like being able to provide that insight of that knowledge and then the consequences, and then learning how to have fun with
Mhm.
becoming creative with the interventions for it or managing it. Have to be, oh, you have to cut out all carbs and you can't eat stuff again, or oh, you're only limited to 45 grams of carbohydrates at each meal. No, that's, get that out of there. That's
Yeah.
outdated advice, or that's very biased section advice. That there's more opportunities out there. For example, whenever someone says, oh, how would you, what's that analogy that they like to use? Oh, it's one of the examples like, oh, how do you get to your house? It's, oh, you can go through the window, you could go through the front door, you could go through the back door, you could enter through the side door. If you're really fancy, you can make a new door. And there's a lot of ways to enter in your house. So that's the same thing too with our bodies of how to manage like diabetes. It could be one method, a combination of methods. Like it doesn't just have to be this one pigeonhole thing and then everything else is a no-go. It's no, like we can have fun with it. Let's just figure out what works best for you, because sustainability is the main issue, in my opinion, for people having relapses of their type 2 diabetes, like it coming back again. Like that's what all the research studies show. It's sure, it's great only for those who didn't drop out of the study. So isn't that already biasing the results for the study that people like hang on to? And then for those who are saying, oh, all the studies that conflict with their ideas, it's funded by like big pharma or like big greens or something like that. I just think to myself, those studies that you're talking about, that's the same stuff for this side that you're supporting. It's not they just have a one preference for one research article compared to the other article. Like it's the same criteria,
It's
the same
cherry
matter.
picking.
It just drives me nuts of how
Me too.
it's like that confirmation bias that gets out there.
It
And
is.
I'm just like, okay, I might fall into that, but please call me out on it. I'm just here to learn
Yeah.
and figure out what ways I can best serve whatever someone wants to do. That's it.
No, you're right. And I think for so many people out there, because they find this new thing that because it's worked for them, they feel like, oh, it's going to work for everyone else. But at the end of the day, they're not looking through the same lens that we're looking through, because us as healthcare providers, we're literally trained, we're actually trained to make sure that this is something sustainable for them. And we are looking at the research. And I feel like it's funny sometimes because I had someone comment on one of my posts the other day, and it was like, to be honest, I had to almost just skim over it and not read it too deeply, because it does affect me and I try not to let it, but sometimes it does get a little bit upsetting. And this person was basically insulting me and saying, you must not understand how to read research and this and that and the other thing. And it was basically a proponent for low carb all the way. And I was explaining that there's plenty of research out there showing that low carb is not sustainable for the long run. And then there's so many other research articles on just diets in general. Some of them lump low carb in with other weight loss diets that aren't specific to type 2 diabetes, but pretty much the vast majority of them we see across the board that for 6 months it's doable, and then everything goes back up, the weight, the A1C, everything. So if someone doesn't have a degree in some sort of clinical field, then, and that's the thing, the average person doesn't realize that person who's saying all that doesn't have a clinical degree or like a science degree or know how to read the research, but then they're really comfortable saying that we don't know how to read the research. So it's just funny. But
it's also the same too, because unfortunately, in my opinion, even some medical providers that are out there are still promoting the same. It's just this and everything else is the enemy. And they do have that, like the credentials to back it up, and people just cling on to that word and say, this is it and only it. And for me, I'm just saying to myself, man, all these, sure, it's helped for you. That's great. But then I'm also asking them, what are the other lab value markers? Sure, A1C is just one thing, but what about your fasted insulin score? What about your testosterone and estrogen scores? Because that also plays a role in impact for managing diabetes. What does your other values and markers look like? What does your LDL look like? What do these other things look like? I want to look at the whole picture, because if someone were to say I was able to reverse my diabetes, but now they just increase their risk of a heart attack by tenfold, I'm like, I would not want to take that risk, because I just want to make sure what are all these factors over here and how can we minimize the risk for everything and move forward in our coaching sustainable for everything.
You're so right. And here's the thing, and you might see it with your clients. I don't know what you're doing in your programs right now, but I will love to hear it. But you see the A1C come down, and then you see the other markers come down too, because a lot of it is like decreasing saturated fat and things like that. So I have clients who are lowering their cholesterol, their triglycerides. I even have them like have some other markers that are coming down, but maybe they lowered it to a lesser extent by 0.1% or something like that than if they would have done something more restrictive. But is that worth it if they're going to rebound on that one anyway and maybe have their cholesterol go up? So it's just looking at the whole picture. It's looking at it from a holistic perspective. And at the end of the day, I think when they see those numbers come down, even if it's A1C, but if there's other things too, they're like, oh, this is something that I can do. You know what I mean? Or that they're excited about. So,
yeah. It's all about sustainability, everyone. It's not just about lowering those A1C scores.
Amen.
We may say, oh, this is what we talk about, but that's only because that's what gets people's foot in the doors. Whereas for us, it's like, we want to not only help you with your A1C scores, we also want to help you live your life again. Because that's the thing. We don't want people to survive. We want people to live and enjoy the awesome things in life.
Amen.
Yeah.
Well said.
Okay. All right. We're getting close to the end of this session, and there's this one question that I love to ask everyone who comes on here. What is your zombie apocalypse survival plan?
Okay, let's see. My zombie apocalypse survival plan. So I had to think about this one because I've never thought about this for the beach. So I was really thinking about it. And I was like, okay, I live by the beach. I feel like a zombie they're basically dust already. So if they go into the water, they would melt. So I would just go into the harbor and I would steal a little boat or rent a little boat and just take some snacks with me, take some seltzer waters, take some crackers, charcuterie, and I would just book it into the ocean. I don't know, take a few friends with me. I don't know what I would do after, but you know what? I would be sitting pretty and enjoying my snacks for a little while. And I think that's worth something.
Yeah, I could imagine Otto as well on the wheel saying, okay, I'm the captain. We're going to have a good time partying out there too. And for those who don't know who Otto is, it is Kristina's adorable dog.
Thanks. He's a little cutie. I have a little teepee for him. And it has his name on it and he's laying in it right now like this. He's so cute. But yeah, he would love that. He would totally be the captain. He'd be barking at everyone. He's very protective.
Yeah. He's, hey, don't touch us. Hey, leave us alone.
That's my mom.
Yeah.
So
Can you just like dissolve into the water, please? Let's make this process quicker.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, goodness. All right. Thank you so much, Kristina. This has been an absolute pleasure having you on here.
Of course.
And my audience is like, oh my gosh, Kristina is so amazing. Where can we connect with her?
Thank you so much. So yeah, people can find me on Instagram. That's probably the best place under type2.diabetes.nutritionist. Kristina Cooke, Kristina with a K, Cooke with an E. And yeah, I do a coaching program to help people with type 2 diabetes without cutting out the foods that they love. So if you ever want to chat or connect with me, I love connecting with my followers. So reach out, send me a message. It's so nice to get to know you guys.
And I will say too, Kristina's website, it's listed in the show notes.
Awesome.
Like, you have to check out her recipes. Like it is to die for. Oh my gosh. And how aesthetically pleasing it is too. I'm just thinking to myself, dang, Kristina is such an awesome person, just providing these recipes for people that taste amazing, great for those blood sugars, and it just overall fills up the warmness in one's heart. This is a really good meal, or this is a really good dish.
That is so cute. Thank you so much. Yeah. And honestly, recipes are the number one thing that people ask me for. I was a little surprised about that, honestly, but I'm coming out with a recipe book soon. I'm working on it and I'm excited about it. I've never done a recipe book, but like I said, I've cooked with my grandma ever since I was a little girl. So I cook like her too. That's the problem. You don't measure anything. You just hear your grandmother in your head and you just dump it in. So that's how I cook. So now I have to go back and do it with measurements and everything. And I'm really trying to like make it nice and it's truly coming from my kitchen. So I will let you know about that.
Oh my goodness. That is amazing. Cooking with Kristina Cooke.
Maybe that'll be the name. I love that. That's actually perfect.
Yeah, it's so awesome. I just love all the quirkiness that goes on for some of those cookbooks and then the recipe snapshots and stuff. I geek out about food stuff all the time. Like
Yeah, I love
all-time
it.
favorite shows that I've watched as a kid is like Food Network show has got to be on one of the top spots right there.
Amen. Yeah. And Martha
Yeah.
Stewart, I loved Martha Stewart. I used to watch that with my grandma all the time. And she always
Hmm.
made like the most, oh my God. And also Ina Garten, that's Food Network, but yeah, favorites.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. The classics.
The classics, 100%.
Okay. All right. It has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, Kristina. And I hope for everyone who's watching this, listening to this, and felt the message that Kristina and I have talked about, do one small action today that's going to improve your health. It doesn't have to be a whole lot. It could be maybe going to bed 1 minute early. That 1 minute could help a ton. Who knows? So thank you again. And we will see you all next time for the next episode.
Awesome. Thanks, Patrick.